Jamaica. Make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
A fire this morning at the Gallery Apartments in Kingston has left one dead. Tonight, in the wake of recent blazes, we turn our attention to fires in high-rise buildings. How prepared are we? We'll hear from Deputy Commissioner of the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Warren Malcolm. Then, we're asking, 15 years in prison for a toy gun, is that justice or a flaw in the law? We'll discuss with attorney at law Kimberly Whitaker. Join the conversation. Lead Story starts now. Good evening and welcome to Lead Story. I'm Joel Crossgill. Now, under the new Firearms Act, the penalties for gun-related offences are tougher than ever. But questions are being raised about cases involving imitation weapons. In studio to discuss with us is attorney at law Kimberly Whitaker. But first, the fire this morning at the Gallery Apartments just across from Emancipation Park that left one dead and several residents displaced. Assistant Superintendent at the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Courtney Thompson, says after the flames were brought under control, firefighters discovered the charred remains of an elderly man in the rubble. His identity has not yet been released. As the Jamaica Fire Brigade continues to probe the cause of the blaze, initial investigations indicate that the fire started in the penthouse of apartment 6. Thompson is reminding the public that whenever there is a fire, the building must be evacuated immediately.
While there's a fire, try your utmost best to escape, to leave the premises and don't return, because this is an example of what done this morning. We were told that the gentleman leave the premises and return to retrieve something, and he would have suffocated in the fire, and this would have been how we make his demise.
And we now hear from Deputy Commissioner of the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Warren Malcolm. Mr. Malcolm, are you there? Deputy Commissioner. Welcome, Deputy Commissioner. Yes. Can you hear me clearly?
Well, hearing you clearly. Thank you very much, and good evening to your listeners.
Thank you very much for joining us. Of course, our viewers would have been very disturbed this morning when they heard of the fire on that apartment building. Can you tell us what's the sentiment like among the members of the Jamaica Fire Brigade?
Well, before I speak to your question, I must first extend condolence on behalf of the Jamaica Fire Brigade to the family of the gentleman who would have lost his life this morning in the fire. Now, the feeling at the Jamaica Fire Brigade is one of sadness. Reasons that all firefighters in attending a fire would have done their utmost best to ensure that lives are protected, there are no loss of life. So whenever we attend an incident where life is lost, it is never a welcome feeling. There's always a bit of sadness. And today, firefighters are really feeling sad about that loss of life.
Now, Deputy Commissioner, I'd like to get into the details, but not too far into the details, obviously. What are the peculiar challenges associated with fires in apartment buildings, particularly high-rise apartment buildings?
Well, there are many challenges that firefighters may face from time to time. And one of them is that in a number of cases, these buildings are built long time ago. And therefore, some of the consideration that are necessary in the construction or alignment of these buildings may not have been taken into account when these buildings were constructed. And by that I mean, as the building gets higher, then the Jamaica Fire Brigade has to retool and purchase more modern equipment, some of them which are much larger than equipment back in the days. And as a result, they need to be able to access the compound that these buildings are constructed. And in a lot of cases, you find that the roadway as well as the turning radius within these compounds and how the fire unit has to be placed in order to extend it outriggers, in order to extend its boom, you find challenges. So that is one challenge that we face. The other is the erection of utility lines within these compounds, whether it be electricity cable or internet cables. A lot of time they run across areas that would be appropriate for the fire brigade to site its unit and to fight the fire. So that is a challenge that we face. Also, there are fixed installations on these buildings that are there to assist firefighters in fighting blaze. And by that I mean there are rising mains which are built into the infrastructure that allows a firefighter having turned up on a scene to connect their hose or hoses to these installations and pump water from the ground to the highest heights within the building. Now, there are a number of times when these installations are not cared for by residents or persons within the vicinity, and as a result, when firefighters turn up on the scene, then they find they have challenges in getting some of these installations to work as they ought to.
All right, Deputy Commissioner, forgive me, I'm going to have to interrupt you right there. We're going to continue the discussion on the other side of the break. Stay with us. This is Lead Story, and we continue in a moment.
First steps on campus to graduation day, we've been with you through every chapter. Introducing the new face of the Students' Loan Bureau, a fresh identity designed for your future. The bold step forward with a fresh look for a future-focused mission, still rooted in trust, service, and possibility, while continuing to uphold our core values of integrity, accountability, respect, teamwork, excellence, and customer focus. It reflects who we are today, modern, resilient, and evolving with the people we serve. This isn't just a new logo, it's a renewed commitment. The Students' Loan Bureau, building bridges, transform.
Tired of the high interest rates and the whole heap of loan payments every month? Take a debt consolidation loan from AIM to pay credit card bills and all other high interest rate loans from other institutions. Make one low monthly payment to AIM and take home some extra money in your pocket. That's financial freedom. One loan, one low payment, more money in your pocket. Call AIM today to lower your loan payments. And remember, you won't find a better deal elsewhere. Guaranteed.
At Hawkeye, we work hard to develop state-of-the-art security solutions like our new Total Connect smart home automation system that gives you 24/7 access to control your appliances, lights, cameras, and doors using your smartphone, tablet, or PC. As the most trusted electronic security company in Jamaica, Hawkeye has the fastest response times to get to you when you need us most. Trust Hawkeye's Total Connect. Hawkeye, securing what matters most.
Welcome back to Lead Story. We're looking at fires in high-rise buildings. How prepared are we? Discussing the topic, Deputy Commissioner of the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Warren Malcolm. Mr. Malcolm, thank you so much for staying with us. Before the break, you were telling us some of the challenges associated with some of these older constructions. I know that a lot of the building permits surrounding these new high-rise buildings take into account the improvement in technology, the advancement in systems of access to water. Are any efforts made at advocacy for retrofitting some of these older constructions to bring them up to speed with the current realities?
Thanks for that question. And the answer is yes. No, there are buildings within our country that are considered specified buildings, and from time to time, or each year, the fire brigade does or carry out an inspection of these buildings. Now, wherever the issues are identified that may pose challenges to the fire brigade and its operation, then these are clearly outlined in the report to whether it be the owners or occupiers of these buildings. And the recommendation clearly states what would be needed to have them retrofitted and rectified.
So what are some of the things that residents in these high-rise buildings or potential residents of these high-rise buildings need to be aware of as it relates to fire risk? For instance, I know you're not really supposed to have a gas cylinder, a cooking gas cylinder, in a high-rise construct. Could you give us a few more tips?
Well, it is always good to have devices that will warn you in the earliest possible time of a fire within your environment, because a lot of persons who actually die within a fire do not necessarily die as a result of the fire itself or the blaze, but as a result of smoke inhalation. These persons would have been asphyxiated, because a lot of these fires take place in the dead of night when persons are asleep. And hence, when they are awakened to raging fire, then it is difficult to get out of the building at that point. So it is always recommended to have smoke detectors, smoke alarms, which can alert you when the fire is in its incipient state, so you can take the necessary action to get out of that building before it is too late. So that's one thing that we recommend that persons adopt and ensure. Also to ensure that there are escape routes within your homes or building. Never one way in, one way out. In the event that that exit is blocked, then there should be an alternative route that you can actually come out of the building.
What about fire suppression systems? Are they accessible to homeowners or renters, or should they be part of the structure itself?
Well, there are some installation that comes with the building itself, because in the approval process, which Jamaica Fire Brigade is a part of, when these building plans come to the Jamaica Fire Brigade for review before the construction is done, then the Jamaica Fire Brigade goes through and make sure that the necessary fire suppression systems are a part of the design, and that they are constructed in that way. But as we say, there are buildings that are built before some of these systems were so stringent or would be required, and hence we still find buildings that sometimes do not have some of these systems that are necessary.
Finally, Deputy Commissioner, you had said when you find yourself in a situation where there's a fire on a high-rise building or something of that nature, get out quickly. Could you describe some of the other steps that you can take in terms of protecting your lungs? Do you stay below the smoke? How do you cover your face to prevent asphyxiation?
Well, and that's a good question. Yes, if we go back to basic chemistry or physics, hot air rises. And hence, when there's a fire, the smoke tend to rise to the highest point within a building, then it canopies, right? So if there is a fire within your house or building, then it's always encouraged that you keep as low as possible, because when you're close to the ground, that's where the least amount of smoke is. And then you crawl on your knees and make yourself our way to the exit.
Deputy Commissioner of the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Warren Malcolm, thank you so much for your time and insight.
You're welcome.
All right, Lead Story will continue after this short break.
Millions of people are attacked by harmful mouth bacteria. The root cause of bad breath, gum problems, cavities, plaque, and tartar. That's why Colgate combined the best science and technology in Colgate Total. Unlike others, its superior formula fights bacteria and creates a powerful protective barrier for up to 24 hours to prevent them from coming back. Take control of your oral health with Colgate Total.
We want a piece for Jamaica. Yeah. Yo, what are you?
Oh man, no, no, brother, no, man, mash up that, man.
You see you ever play ref? No big game,
Yeah, but I look a bad game. No, I said, place when you come from, brother, I want to live good, man. I want to live good, brethren. No shake on, I can play a little bad, brethren.
Really have to shake on?
Yeah, man, and no badness, brethren, just live good, man.
Come together and make the violence done.
Get tiles and get creative with your floors, walls, and all the spaces in between. Our knowledgeable sales consultants are happy to help create your beautiful finish with the latest designs in first quality porcelain, wood look, vinyl, mosaics, natural stones, and countertops. At Creative, you will get every tile you need for your residential or commercial projects. Creative Building Finishes, your one-stop shop for everything tiles. Visit our showroom at 5 Red Hills Road or call 876-929-5553. Get tiles, get...
Welcome back to part 2 of Lead Story. Now, under the new Firearms Act, the penalties for gun-related offences are tougher than ever. But questions are being raised about cases involving imitation weapons. In studio to discuss with us the implications, Attorney at Law Kimberly Whitaker. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so this issue of imitation guns receiving 15 years, is that accurate? What can you tell us about it?
Okay, under the Firearms Act of 2022, an imitation firearm is defined as anything that has the appearance of a firearm. So under this act, this encapsulates toy guns, water guns, etc. And what I am seeing is that the children who, by virtue of them being children and not being knowledgeable of the law in its entirety, they are the ones that are now being brought into conflict with the law and are facing penalties of minimum 15 years for possession simpliciter of these weapons. That means they're not using the weapon to do any act, to commit any criminal offense. They are not trying to commit a robbery. They just may have it at their home, in the car with their parents, or on their person. And because it is an imitation, it is a prohibited weapon, and they're subject to 15 years imprisonment.
Our newsroom has also been getting information that prop guns, like used on music videos or movies, are also coming under scrutiny, even though that there's a pre-existing regime that kind of governs those prop guns. Have you heard anything, Sima?
Yes, I have. So the prop guns, before, under the old act, there was allowance made for them because it would be in the furtherance of the creative industries and theatrical performances, etc. No such provision exists under this new law, and as such, persons who engage in music videos, they are at risk if they make a music video that, for whatever reason, has an imitation firearm or a replica of a firearm. They can face 15 years.
I mean, we've seen pushback in terms of the broadcasting standards that now exist in terms of what you're able to show on screen, the topics that you're able to speak about on or sing about on radio,
yes,
as part of the drive to kind of remove the mystique or, you know, that kind of lean towards the attraction of the imagery of a firearm. Do you understand that approach?
And how do our artists circumvent this? They go to other Caribbean islands and make the videos, and it's still disseminated to the wider public via social media, via YouTube, etc. So I understand that, yes, we do not want to perpetuate a violent society. However, guns do exist, and creative expression, even though we may not agree with it, freedom of expression is very important in our country.
Now, specifically as it relates to imitation weapons,
yes,
they're not without threat, though, are they?
Possession simpliciter of the imitation weapons, meaning no threat to any person, no act has been done, there is no criminal intent. That is what I specifically have an issue with, because it is criminalized. So this is not someone who is acting nefariously. They have an object and they are trying to rob someone or intimidate. And as such, they are acting with the criminal intent and they are doing the actus reus, which is the act itself. My issue is that mere possession of anything that looks or has the appearance of a firearm is criminalized. And I believe that the appearance of a firearm, the Parliament needs to look and to tighten the definition. Just having the mere appearance of a firearm is really too broad.
I mean, licensed firearms exist.
Yes.
And one of the methods that they employ or they demand to keep those licensed firearms out of the wrong hands,
yes,
is that they must have certain storage mechanisms.
True.
You must also have certain licensing mechanisms.
Yes.
Do you foresee that kind of interpretation coming in?
That is actually a great option or avenue to pursue in terms of, for example, the creative industry. So persons could have a license, and if it is used outside of that license, then that is where the criminal aspect comes in.
I mean, this may be on a tangent, and I don't know if you heard about a particular case in the United States on a movie set where they had a prop weapon that actually fired.
Yes.
Yes.
I heard about
you heard
that.
about that particular incident?
I did.
Yes. So in scenarios like that, how rigorously would those things have to be policed, and would you require greater resources in order to do so?
Okay. So that would be a specific or one-off situation, but when we go back to the old law, where in order for an object to be considered a firearm, it had to be a lethal barreled weapon that could actually project a missile or shot or bullet. Right now, when we have a regular plastic gun that is ejecting water, and it's clear that this child or this person is using it in the furtherance of just enjoyment or fun, I think that the 15 years is draconian, and not only, I've been saying 15 years, but if you are being arrested, for example, and you resist arrest, then that moves to 20 years based on Section 14 of the Firearms Act. So I think the act needs to be tightened, and right now, the children are at risk. They are the ones, so I get it, that the government wants to create a gun-free society, not to put guns on a pedestal. However, right now, the act was passed in 2022, and right now what we're seeing is the children are the ones that are coming into conflict with the law. And no one wants to plead guilty when they're going before the court. You have a 14-year-old before the court. That parent is not going to advise their child to plead guilty to serve 15 years for a weapon that cannot fire, cannot discharge a round.
But I'll tell you what the parent can advise.
Yes.
Do not buy a prop or toy weapon.
Which means it shouldn't be sold.
That's the contention.
Yes.
So where do you target? Do you target the parents who suggest to their children, listen, there's danger associated with this, not only mortal danger,
Yes.
but also legal danger.
So that would,
yeah. So is it then that you target the sellers? And if so, it's not just local.
Yes.
It's international because you can purchase these things online.
Yes, agreed. And as in doing my research and advocacy, I've realized that these water guns are still available for sale, and most persons are still not aware of the penalties. So I believe a public education campaign is needed to ensure that the rules are followed, and if we're moving in that strict direction, because it's a strict liability offense, there needs to be public education. And as I say that, I also want to advocate for judicial discretion, because in dictating that it's 15 years, that means that certain circumstances cannot be discussed or contemplated on by our judges. Not all cases are the same. And I believe that each case which stands on its own facts should be deliberated on and considered by the adjudicators and not just dictated in terms of sentencing.
Now, in terms of dialogue on this particular issue, as you said, the law came into effect in
2022.
So are you seeing that a willingness for further dialogue on this issue?
Well, I have not heard anything really. From this act was passed, what as legal practitioners, we're realizing that more of these matters are coming up in the courts, and based on what is happening, it does not seem as if justice is being done, and that is why we're speaking out about it now. So in terms of dialogue, we are all open to dialogue. I won't